All right, good evening, everybody. Just getting set up here. Had a bunch of thoughts I needed to get out of my brain and onto some paper. So, thought I'd come out. Just did these initial sketches here a few days ago. We're looking at here right now. Thinking about the city. Probably gonna push this up a bit. Ugh. I don't need that anymore. There. Push that up. But in addition to that, there's a few other things I wanted to kind of get down. Thought I'd do that tonight rather than working on the updates to those drawings I was doing the other day. But I feel like that looks okay. Everything's working, I hope. And let's get our pencils out. So that's what I got loaded up here. I had some thoughts early on architecture, actually, and some vehicle things that were just kind of hopping around in my brain as I was reviewing a few things. In some ways, I feel like I kind of started to stray from the plant tech aspect of the designs I was thinking about, so I wanted to kind of push back toward that. In fact, I have the ship I was working on up on my monitor. So that's what we got loaded up here. But I had some thoughts kind of like on the city layout, so I've got that kind of over here. And that maybe their city is built around a portion of their colony ship that's crashed on the planet, and they've kind of built into it, around and out of it as a result of the initial landing. One of the things I like when I'm out in the woods is kind of sketching some of the it's called turkey tail fungus. And it's kind of like this wavy fungus that comes out of the dead branches and things like that. I was thinking, kind of if they're living on this bramble world, what if they kind of used something like that as a means for kind of constructing their habitat, their home. So it's kind of maybe coming out of some of the branches and things. So I had that little brain thought pop into my head. I've taken a lot of photographs of that stuff and sketched it as well. Kind of comes down to at a smaller point, but I figured that if I kind of started it on my own a certain way, that might work really well. Just imagine it as being, some kind of housing, so leveling it out and then building into it. So there's kind of a group of them. They kind of usually come out from a smaller point, so maybe that's worth kind of injecting in there. And then implying kind of leveled out layers of floors and things built into it. That's what I was thinking there, so. But wanted to kind of rough some of that in. Yeah, maybe they built it themselves too, but That's kind of what I was thinking here. Turkey tail fungus as residents. Maybe there's like, you know, bridges or structures built along the edges to kind of connect things together. So that's what I was thinking there. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that matter, but this is a factor into the story I'm trying to tell. I'm just kind of trying to think about the background of the world they're coming from. You know, leveling it out on the inside so it works with us. Adapting it to fit human needs. Try to imagine that scale. I was sketching these initial things that are up here above, and I was like, you know, I guess I should put that into view, huh, for the Instagram folks. Move that back over here and move you out and over. There we go. And an excuse to use my new ruler from Muji that I picked up. So, you know, picked this little ruler here that I thought would be fun to use. Everybody loves Muji, right? So start dropping some of these straight lines in here. I was sifting through some art station work, you know, trying to see what I'd missed out on the last couple of weeks when I was kind of out of town doing some other things. Seeing if there's anything particularly inspirational maybe that I'd missed out on. Turned out there was, so. But yeah, I wanted to really jump into this, thinking about it a lot today. One of the things I'm trying to pull from for kind of this world building project, just a lot of things that I'm kind of generally interested in. So the landscape painting I do, or the kind of other things I like to do, to pull that into here. Can I skip? Yeah, you can. Easy enough. Same thing over here. Good evening, people popping in. I was looking at some, Sid Mead illustrations and things like that, and maybe what type of things that I could incorporate from that kind of idealistic future that he was representing in there. Get some of these verticals in here. Found this great craft ruler at Muji when I was in New York. So excited to finally put a use to that thing, right? Does anyone have any cool projects they're trying to work on? We'll kind of just imply these are part of the same area down here. And then going to go from there. Yeah, again, I was just having, if those are coming in, I had some thoughts on the city architecture, because part of it I want to imply, if you can kind of see from up here, and maybe, or especially over here, that maybe the city that they're all from, it's really kind of the remnants of a crashed ship. And that's there. And they kind of built around it and kind of built out from it. So like maybe this is like the core over here, and then it pops out over there. What's interesting, the idea I have for the overall project, it doesn't really show the city, I think, very much. So I think, if I can come up with something pretty solid, I might do that. But I hadn't planned on it. And maybe they're building on top of these kind of turkey tail style fungi. So one of the kind of the elements I wanted to have with it is that there's kind of this idea with this plant punk, if you will. So they've got a whole technology as a result of the nature of the planet they're colonizing and surviving on, that they can kind of manipulate the local plant life to a certain degree. And so they use it to kind of construct their homes and use it as a power source and otherwise kind of like a raw materials, because they don't have access to the same kinds of things they would have if they were on Earth. And so they have to kind of use this materials as they find them to kind of build their world with it. I was having some thoughts as I was looking at some other people's work, and then thinking about my own project. And this kind of just popped right into my head as I was working. I'm like, I should really get this committed to paper before I forget. As soon as I started thinking about this project, like 1,000 doors open up, which would be less of a problem if I didn't have so many distractions. You know what I mean? Yeah, well, I've just been thinking about, because I've got I initially started this kind of as a world building project to help me kind of work on a new portfolio to put out there, and then I've had stories kind of emerge as I've worked on it, and but anyway, as I work on it, I had that story. But one of the things I have is like this kind of background of the story where they've arrived on this planet, and the planet looks like a giant tangle of plants, and so the humans kind of crash land slash settle on this world, and they discover the evidence. What this is, distractions do suck. So I've been working on this concept project for a while, if you've been paying attention. I call it Bramble. But one of the ideas is that humans, they've kind of settled on this planet, and the planet kind of has evidence of past civilizations, but there's no evidence beyond like some certain specific archaeological things. So there's no there's no bodies, there's no fossils, there's no kind of the biological matter you would expect to find from a civilization, and the humans find that they can use, after they're crashing on this planet, they can use kind of the materials and the plant life to manipulate it and use it as a technology. And so I'm calling it plant punk. But it's not kind of strong enough that they can actually leave the planet. So they're kind of stuck there. The story I have is that there's these the evidence of this past civilization exists primarily in the form of what are called totems and vaults, and there's kind of these large structures that are kind of a blend of plant life and crystals, and anyway, most of them exist kind of away from where the humans have colonized, and they exist in these kind of nature reserves, these parks, and they're not allowed to go out to where these things are at, but some people do kind of sneak out to them. So the story is kind of set, after humans have been there for say 500 years or 300 years or 1,000 years or something like that, and they have kind of these different classes built into society, and so this person who's like a lower class person brings this bureaucrat, this government worker, and his child out to check out some of these totems, which I was sketching the other day, and they kind of run into some problems out there. But that story is kind of an outgrowth of the overall concept project. So I've been thinking about the city today, and I was like, what are they going to build it out of? Because I did these initial sketches up here. It's like, maybe the ship crashes into the planet, and they kind of build around the ship. And then I was thinking, what are they going to build it out of? How's it going to work? And I had like, these things coming out, thinking it was like some kind of power structure for powering everything. So maybe they convert some of the plant solar absorption and they convert that back into power, and that kind of goes back out to the city. Just kind of come up with a rationale for why things exist. And what's funny is the story I've kind of written up doesn't really involve the city very much. But I kind of feel like it maybe should to some degree. But I had some thoughts on the on what it should look like. So I was thinking about some of these like turkey tail fungi that you see on old logs and trees and things like that are rotting. I thought, it'd be interesting maybe if they kind of built some of their homes into that kind of structure. So maybe there's like really massive ones that exist on the interior. So they're kind of, I thought, maybe they're kind of building their city on the inside, kind of with these hollowed out bramble vines and logs. And kind of as a safety thing, right? So it's kind of enclosed, and that way they can kind of control the interior, what comes in, what goes out, and for the main city there. So but I've kind of sketched, gone a lot of landscape painting and sketched out a lot of these kind of turkey tail fungi quite a bit. So I was thinking, what if, maybe they built either took what was there or kind of used that as a guide to build their own structures with, or something similar to that. I thought that might be interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking about. I've never done, a graphic novel before. I was kind of interested in comics as a kid in terms of doing them, and then I kind of backed off of them when I found out kind of how little they make, professionally. And that's actually popped into the news lately, where Marvel and DC are kind of being called out by some artists for paying really bad rates for pages that take a lot of time. And but it seems like there's a lot of space for like indie stuff. So, but again, as I was working on the concept project, I was thinking about this as a graphic novel, and keep it limited in terms of where it's at and the characters and that. But I'd like to have some of the more world stuff fleshed out. Yeah, I think they were saying that it's like less than minimum wage. If you kind of figure how long it takes to do a page, like it was just really bad. I forget, was it Daniel Nguyen or something like that was talking about it on Twitter. But again, for me, it was initially just like character concept project overall, just as a way of updating my thing. But then as I've been thinking about it, like the story started to emerge, and I was like, what if I did do a graphic novel? I've never done one. And it could be, fun to do, something I've never done. I'm a sucker for doing things I haven't done in art before. So I've written up like a script and character descriptions and a whole kind of production list. And I've been updating it as I've been, thinking about it, but but it's just the thought I was having today, thinking about some of the architectural aspects of the story. So, but I was having thoughts on like the city and the architecture and that, so I thought I should jump back into that. Yeah, but it's crazy kind of what's going on in the comic world. You think like Marvel, owned by Disney, could afford to pay like premium prices to like these amazing artists that do just awesome work for them, and it turns out they're not willing to pay for the privilege, I guess. As people, it makes me wonder, kind of like when I look at the characters they lean on for the films and TV shows and that, and it's like a lot of it's like really old. It's like the most popular, newest character is probably Deadpool, and he's like 30 years old. And it's just kind of crazy, right? And that they're not willing to give ownership or compensation to these artists that provide them with an endless font of creativity. And then they kind of, you see like, well, they really haven't done as much new stuff lately, and that's because why would they? Who would hand off their best ideas to Marvel and DC at those pay rates? Who would give them the next Daredevil or Cable or Domino? Like I wouldn't. I'd hold on to those ideas for myself, and do whatever derivative character I'd want to do for the main stuff. That'd be my approach. It's like, why would I give you my best? I'm certainly not willing to pay for it. Yeah, we got a good story. I think it's so it's about one of these guys who takes the bureaucrat and his child out on an excursion. Things go very, very wrong out there. They get separated. The daughter runs off. She's very young, like 8 years old or 5 or something like that. So I've got a good treatment, I think, written out. I just need to finalize it. I've got a kind of a rough storyboard laid out as well, where I've got all the main beats kind of laid out a certain way. But I was looking at some Meat stuff today, some Sid Meat stuff, and kind of getting caught up on some of the concept art stuff that's been posted over on conceptart.org that I haven't looked at yet. I should see if I got like a little shapey thing on here. Yeah, color pencil. Well, this is just a pencil lead holder. The lead itself. So I'm using 2 colors. I'm using this red and the blue. So I'll just grab it from the brands that make them. So the blue is made by Staedtler. It's like a blue lead here, and that's what's in here is blue. And then over here, this is the red, and the red is made by Uniball. So. It's just a really nice combination. I like that it comes in the 2mm lead, which is really nice to work with. I think working with blue and red together works really, really nicely. I'm trying to get a sense of like scale on these things. So, like if these are like a window height on here. So, yeah, I've been. I like using like the regular color pencils, but at the same time, I was like, well, if I'm using this so much, I should just look into the, these replaceable leads, see what I can get. Just to see what I can get. out of it. And I like the combination with red and blue. I think works really well. But I've also been playing around. I saw this video of Nico Marley. So if you're not familiar with him, he's a concept artist. He's worked at Dreamweaver mostly, or not Dreamweaver, I can't remember the name, but they did like Kung Fu Panda and the Kung Fu Panda, DreamWorks. There we go. There's my brain. Oh, hello, Bosch. Yeah, my dog just decided to join me under the table. But he uses a combination of these markers and colored pencil and ink and whiteout. So I've been kind of playing with that as a group. I found a really, really short video that shows his process. It was for like an old, if you're not familiar with him, look him up. Nico, N-I-C-O, or Nicholas, M-A-R-L-E-T, Marley, M-A-R-L-E-T. And anyway, there's a really like short, like 3-minute video on YouTube that's like was for some online course he did like 10 plus 15 years ago, something like that. And you can kind of see what he's doing in there, and kind of what the different materials he's using. Which I didn't know that he used. I thought he used like a gray wash or something with ink, but he's using marker over colored pencil, which it's not that like groundbreaking, but I was just surprised. I assumed looking at his work that it was something else, but I've been kind of playing around with that lately. Yeah, Bosch is my dog, named for Hieronymus Bosch, the painter. But yeah, he uses like combination of marker and ink and watercolor. Well, not watercolor, but whiteout. Let's see. But yeah, but anyway, I really like Nico Marley's stuff, so I was like, oh, it's time to find this little video. It's using a combination of colored pencil, marker, and then ink. And I actually like to use blue pencil over my initial red pencils. I think it has like a really nice combo effect on top of it. Make sure everybody's nice and separated here. But yeah. Oh, Brutus Hieronymus. Yeah, I saw the Hieronymus Bosch show at the Prado in Madrid in the summer of 2016, just before I got shit canned SCAD. Um, and I I saw that, and then a year later, I was back in the U.S. and I adopted my dog, and I was like, Bosch would be a really great name for a dog. So, one syllable sounds nice. It's funny though, depending on who you talk to, people like, is it that technology company that makes security stuff or home appliances or other things, or is it the TV show? I guess there's a detective show called Bosch on Amazon or something. So I get kind of these different responses from people. Yeah, but name for Hieronymus Bosch, who's a very judgmental painter. Who's like, all these people are going to hell. I'm going to paint about it. Yeah, but I have this whole little project I'm thinking about, so I need to finalize really the character designs. I kind of know what the bureaucrat and his daughter are going to look like. I'm mostly there with the guide. I'm trying to think of these things in terms of a longer life. What are these kind of characters? If you look at them, are they easy to understand? Is it something somebody could maybe cosplay? I've been to the Nelson Atkins. I did a whole series of museum stops on a cross country drive once, and I definitely stopped in there. I probably saw. I don't remember exactly which one, but um, um, let's see what I got for markers here. Yeah, they had a huge show at the Prado. It had most of his stuff. So it had that one, that triptych. It was 35 paintings of Hieronymus Bosch. So, which, it's pretty significant. It's a Vermeer show that's got most of the Vermeers in it or something. It's I think New York, so I was in New York recently, and I think New York has 8 or 9 Vermeers. I know there's I think there's 5 at the Met, and then I think there's 3 at the Frick, if memory serves correctly. I studied, it was a student in New York Academy of Art, which is this old mastery, quasi old mastery grad school, and so I was very much fixated on those Baroque era painters as a student there. They only have his paintings there? That's interesting. I saw some news article that said, the reason why a lot of AI looks like his work is that he was one of their early training sources was that guy, which explains a lot. Sad, but it does explain kind of the look of Midjourney in those early days of that AI nonsense. but yeah, I know a lot of people like his stuff. Poland's, cheap. It's not a cheap flight, but it's a cheap place to visit. Yeah, it's like I remember kind of watching all that come in. If you looked at my Instagram stories, I've kind of just been posting those there just as like a record to myself in my stories, like different kind of news stories I see about the AI nonsense. And I decided I had to become kind of overeducated in it recently because the some of the faculty at the school I'm at now, and actually at the previous one too, but it became a bigger issue here. Some of the faculty wanted to kind of inflict those systems on the students when they don't want it. Like, they don't want it at all. Especially in visual art stuff. And so I had to kind of start paying attention more because I mostly just ignored it. I just didn't care about it. What's it got to do with anything that I want to do? And the answer is nothing. But yeah, we had some. We had an incident at my school where a faculty member replaced student work for a promotional event with AI, and he made all these kind of claims about it, which were patently false. He said he was like he had carefully edited it and done all these things, and the work itself had like all the telltale signs of someone just using AI, which was just sad. And so we had like a big round table to discuss it, and I found that those that were supporting it really didn't have that much to say in terms of support, which was interesting to me because I would think people that were saying, hey, there's this amazing new technology, it's going to make a lot of new things possible, and like what they showed was just like generally mediocre, like it didn't really matter. So up until like a few months ago, I was mostly just ignoring it, like, oh, that's interesting or whatever, I don't care. And that's kind of how my attitude's been with the development of it. I watch it and I'm like, oh, well, that's an interesting thing, or well, that's like a neat process, or kind of an interesting program, or something like that. And then over the last few years, it's really come to a head. Yeah, have a good night. I'm probably going to stick around for another hour or so. But let's say maybe zoom in a little bit above there. There we go. Good evening, people popping in. Good evening, good evening. Good evening. I'm working on, so I have my little bramble project I've been working on for a while, right? The world building project that's kind of got a story for that I'm thinking about doing a comic for. But I was having some thoughts as I was sitting there this evening looking at some stuff about the nature of the city. So the idea with the story is that people have kind of crash landed on this. That's what's kind of up over here. Hello over there on. I appreciate that over there on Kick. Sorry I didn't see your message earlier. It's kind of over off to the side, so always give me a minute to check on things. But the idea here is there's a humans have kind of settled on this planet, colonized it. That's very far away from the Earth. Like they sent out a colony ship, and it's a multi-generational one, and they were on this ship for a very, very long time, and they arrived there, and the planet itself, turns out it looks kind of like a giant tangle of plants, like a bramble. And so they they land, they settle, or actually they crash land, and they settle, and they can't leave, but they find evidence of an ancient civilization that appears to be long gone, but there's no like life forms. It's just these artifacts that remain. Some of them are, I call brambles and totems. And the idea with those is they're basically these structures, and they're not really sure what they're for, but humans are kind of stuck there because they don't have enough, say fossil fuels or anything to like leave the actual planet to, remain in space or whatever. And so they settle there, and story I have idea for is kind of set in the future after that. So maybe they've learned to kind of manipulate the plant life there to manipulate it and use the technology that's there's something inherent in the plant life and the structures of the world that they can use for certain kinds of power sources. Anyway, so the story I've kind of been thinking of after developing it is that maybe there's this story where there's these guides, and they're not really supposed to do this, but they take people on excursions out to some of the kind of preserves, and these nature preserves, to kind of view some of these artifacts that they don't have access to. And so the story kind of revolves around this guide taking his father and young daughter out to check out some of these reserves, and they get into some trouble. But again, just kind of start with a larger kind of concept project. So, let's see. So, but anyway, but I was having some thoughts today thinking about it, about the actual city. city itself doesn't show up in the story I wrote really very much, other than kind of generically being there. Um, um, yeah, but I just thoughts about the city and these turkey tail fungi that you'll see on plants and things out in the forest. And I spent a lot of time out in the woods painting and that. So, but I was thinking about these things kind of being like maybe part of the structure that they build their city around is taking these fungi and kind of using them as their kind of architecture. So that's kind of what I had some thoughts on that today. So thought I'd sit down and sketch that out. It's kind of nice to like one of the things I like to do during live stream is like it's nice to be able to just like talk through it, even if there's not very many people there or anybody. Still kind of feels like I'm explaining it to somebody, and which helps me kind of think through the process of making it. So. But I was doing these like sketches here, thinking about the ship maybe forming the foundation of their city, and I've been thinking about the last couple of days, like maybe they're inside of a log kind of structure. Um, yeah, so that's kind of what I'm. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on here. I had some thoughts about the city. I thought I'd throw down real quick. Yeah, but I've kind of been distracted the last few weeks with some things, so kind of backed off a bit. But now I'm like, thinking about some things. I had some thoughts. I've got two of the characters I think pretty solidly figured out visually. I just need to like put together their sheets, and then the main character I still need to figure out. So she's kind of the sticking point. Yeah, so I've been working on a bunch of things. Well, yesterday and the other day I was going. Well, yesterday I was going through and like reworking some older things that I thought would be worth kind of going over again. So, yeah, but I was thinking about, again, some of the architecture today. So I was like, come on and maybe rough sketch some of that out and, kind of on the same page with these other images here. Good evening, everybody popping in. Good evening. Everyone got an exciting week for themselves planned out in front? I just got finished with a bunch of paperwork. I got some other things I got to do for school, but yeah. Yeah, it's nice, sitting here sketching. I got a dog under my feet. His bed under the table. bambos. I've always thought so. I thought I'd come in here and get some of them down before they disappeared from my brain. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening, people popping in. Let's see, where's my N2? Good, you everybody popping in. Alright, let's let that dry for a minute. Alright, let's see if this will work like I want it to. Here's our back page here. Alright, looks like it's working. Oop. Good evening, everybody popping in. Yeah, it's getting there. Popping okay for everybody, I hope. Good evening, people popping in. Good evening. feel better. Good evening. Alright, I think we'll break out the heavy duty white here. Oops, it's splattered. Ugh. paint all over my fingers. Oops, sorry about that, Bosh. That's right, I wasn't quite shut all the way. Good, everybody popping in. Good evening. I'm on Twitch too. Well, yeah, there's a program I found called, let's see, what's it called? Let's see, what's it called again? It's free. It's called Social Stream Ninja. Social Stream Ninja. And lets you, basically it creates a browser that integrates the different chats together. And you can kind of mod it to look the way you want, but it's free. I just have to kind of I have it launched up on another computer next to me. Integrates with OBS. So basically, you create like a web browser in OBS that becomes its display. Yeah, Social Stream Ninja. It does Twitch, it does Kick, it does DLive, it does Instagram, I think Twitter, the whole thing. So that's what I'm using. So that's why you're able to see like the Instagram chat and everything on there. And let's see, today's the 23rd. Wow, this year is just moving right along. We are 3 months in, and we are just cranking along. Sort of both. So I started doing a concept project a while ago, actually. And as I've been developing, I've come up with like a story I think I'd like to tell with comics or the comic book based off of it. So this is kind of what I've been thinking through some different things with it, but. So, yes and yes. I was working on kind of like an update, trying to look at some of the, skills and things maybe that I'm not as strong in, or things that I can add to my portfolio. And so I've worked on this kind of world building project with some characters and things. And as I've worked on that, I've had a lot of thoughts on potential stories. So, Well, these are. I was thinking. So the story here is humans have settled on this planet, and it kind of looks like a giant tangle of plants. So kind of my working name is bramble, and they kind of figure out how to use the plants to kind of help them settle there. So they've kind of crash landed. They can't leave. But there's this kind of plant technology, so they've learned to manipulate it and use it as a power source, among other things. And I had some thoughts on that. So I was like, maybe they've got like the spaceship crashed or something like that, and maybe they built something out of it, and then this is kind of them settling in here. So that's kind of the thought here. I've put together a story treatment for it that I want to do. It's about them kind of going. There's evidence on this planet of a former civilization, and anyway, so out there's kind of these reserves that people aren't really allowed to go to from the colony because it's dangerous out there. Maybe some other reasons too. But there's people that take others out on kind of secret excursions out there. And the story is like, one of these excursions. So a guide takes this bureaucrat and his daughter out to one of these locations to where they can view this kind of ancient alien artifacts. And they kind of run into some problems while they're out there with the local wildlife, among other things. So that's kind of the story I put together. And it kind of limits the scope of what I would have to actually sketch into a comic book. But Plague Doctor. Well, again, these are like supposed to be structures kind of built on a plant. So the idea here is they're, what turkey tail fungus is. We see it in the woods a lot. So it's kind of maybe there's like this kind of giant version on the plant, and they use that to kind of live inside of. So it's just a little thought I was having today. So. That's what these things are. So they're not a mask. Just like you think of these as being more like these are buildings that people are living inside of. So you can see a little person down here, or maybe over here. There we go, over here. Oh yeah. You grew lion's mane. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of as you see in the forest called turkey tail. Probably not edible as far as I know. Never tried, but I've done like sketches of that and things when I've gotten out in the woods to paint and draw. But yeah, I was kind of thought I was having. I was like, I should put this down before I lose it. This is the current sketchbook I'm working on. Is this one for the project? So if I were to kind of open up to the first page, and let's kind of pull that back a little bit. So, thinking about the character, I'm probably going to change her quite a bit from this, but these are just some sketches I was doing in here for the sketchbook for this project. There's the bureaucrat. Some sketches here of the costumes. Some rough sketches under here. Thinking about a scene. So there's the bureaucrat. This is the guide. There's the kid back there. An artifact here. Yeah. I think lion's mane is supposed to be good for like your memory or something, right? So there's like a totem type thing. I was thinking about some ships, so how they get out there. More like, you know, gliders. Just some city things I was initially thinking about. So like there's the interior, but I was thinking more typical architecture, and then I've been thinking about the other thing a bit more. You know, some more rough character sketches here. Another scene sketch over there. Some ships. Kind of like where this one's going. Or this one. Some other sketches in here, and then what we're working on today. So, but yeah, so I've got a whole other sketchbook that's full. That's you know, cheaper paper. That's, you know, a lot more drawings. But this is the current one right here that I'm working on. I had some thoughts on the other thing I was thinking about is some kind of like walker or strider, because, you know, the way the plants work. Yeah, so I'm calling it like a plant punk. So they kind of use the plant as a technology, and then they're kind of wearing the outfits are maybe more like what's the word? Kind of like a Baroque era or Renaissance, you know, so kind of older than that. So maybe like when they crash land on the Earth, they maybe they you know, one of the limited resources, they have like a book on like Baroque architecture, and that becomes kind of the foundation for a lot of what they do. So, yeah, that's kind of what I've been thinking about. So, but I have a whole like story there with that, and so, you know, cosmic horror, sci-fi stuff going on. I had some other thoughts too, like maybe there's like the ship they crashed in is more like a shuttle, and there was some kind of disaster that happened on the ship that led them to use that shuttle to crash into the Earth. And then that's kind of part of the reason why they're stuck. And then, but then maybe the ship itself is supposed to be doing something, and while they're waiting, you know, so they were supposed to have, like, you know, colonized and use the ship to build something. And the ship kind of does it automatically by itself, but it takes a very long time because it's got limited resources, and there's some damage and things like that. But so, but that's the whole thing, you know, the whole little project. I've done a bunch of digital paintings and sketches. I've got like a 3D model of one of those ships, kind of starting to build it over on the side. And then, yeah, I've been fleshing out kind of what I think of the characters and the story and that, and then maybe I can push that out later while I'm kind of finishing this thing, so I can think about how it all works. Maybe they're riding a bug around or something as a horse kind of thing. Probably not. That's kind of a weird hypothetical, but I guess it would depend on the circumstances, right? But I find that to be kind of highly unlikely. You tried to tell the officer that? Well, everybody popping in. I never know, right? What's going to happen out there in the world. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I'm working on. But I had some thoughts again today. Thinking about striders, or maybe I was thinking about this really this kind of mechs. But I was like, what if there was some kind of bug that they could tame and use them as like kind of as a horse. That's probably sketch sees that all night. Got my little dog under my feet. Oh, Bosh, how you doing? Yeah. Thought you give you a little foot rubbing with the sides, huh? Well, it depends what you mean by that. I mean, I think art tends to advocate for something pretty often, not always, I think, but some art is just aesthetic. Some people like to think that by not talking about something, you're talking about something, and I find that to be kind of a passive aggressive approach. I'm not sure what people mean by political too, so there is a lot of work that does advocate for certain things, but I think if you're someone who's like primarily interested in aesthetics, that's not quite the same thing as like having a political position on something, on economics or how people should live their lives or something like that. Um, so I don't know that that's true. I think some people try to make it all political, so they'll try to foist opinions on people or ideas or ideals that they did not really consider, and that's kind of their filter on it. Oh, look, a spam bot over there. But so I think that often happens where people try to impose their views on work. I do think art is often intentionally political and sometimes unintentionally, but I think in the sense of it's advocating for something, but or supporting a position. But I don't know that that's always true. I know there's some people that are primarily interested again in aesthetics or that, but I think some people can definitely pull opinions into things when they're not really there. I think people definitely do that. It's mostly about them asserting themselves over somebody else. That's what I tend to think. So. So yeah, that's my general attitude. So I think it can be, but I tend to find those that are imposing it on work to be they're doing something that they want to have happen, or they're trying to advocate for something they want to be evident in the work. And it's less to do with the actual intentions of the original artist. So, but yeah, so that's what I think. I tend to find that's the case where people just want to make something agree or disagree so they can assert themselves, rather than dealing with the reality of the people they're talking about. So I tend to find it kind of a very shallow approach because often it requires a misunderstanding of history and people's perceptions of the times that they were living in. I think it's better for us to understand who people were and the realities of their circumstances rather than trying to impose our modern kind of contemporary sensibilities on them. So I imagine I'm working on these simple bug drawings right here, but 500 years from now, someone can look at this and they'll be like, oh, well, it means this and this and this. When I'm like, well, I'm really just thinking about some kind of form of transportation that they're dealing with, and maybe the idea that they're domesticating some local wildlife would be offensive to people in the future. I don't know. and they would perceive that as being a political statement that I had crafted some kind of walker creature for the future, these humans to ride on. I'm not really making a moral statement about it. I'm trying to say, well, these are what they might do to adapt to the circumstances they find themselves in to survive. They may turn these creatures into some kind of domesticated animal. So that's like something to consider too. It's like I'm literally just drawing these things to walk around on, and maybe these animals are a little bit less smart than a horse or something like that. And they can they're happy to be along for the ride, and like a dog or a cat. Like my dog, he's always happy to be come along for the adventure, the things that we get to see. Yeah, so that might be a way of thinking about it. It's like I certainly have my own politics that I lean toward, but my goal when I'm putting together this world or story is not to justify those thinking or that feeling, but rather to create a world where these people actually live and breathe and have to deal with their own lives. And it's not so much to it's not really at all to even consider any of that. It's more just think about the world that they inhabit and the realities that they're dealing with and how they might respond to those situations. Yeah, so that's what I think. I don't know. I think people try to make mountains out of molehills a lot, and I think it gets in the way of doing interesting and excellent things. Where's my oh, there it is. Look, I'm starting to get sleepy. Might be worth trying to get up earlier again. Something happened in well, I know what happened. My schedule kind of got thrown out the whack, but so yeah, I don't know. And usually, when people are talking about art being political, they're saying they want to put a Marxist filter on it, which I don't find to be particularly interesting at all. So that tends to be the people that like to do that too. Hello, Thorin Oakenshield. How's Tolkien doing this week? Yeah, I might try to make one of these creatures inside of Nomad Sculpt. Sounds like there's some trouble outside. Yeah, but I had these thought as a Strider. There is no good living. I appreciate that. Cloud? Art the Clown? Art the Clown? Yeah, maybe I should do one of these now. I think these would work really well as some kind of Can I tell you how to go live? I would go on YouTube and look that up. It's not that hard. I use OBS, which is a streaming software, and it links up to your whatever services you want to use. I use a number of different ones just because why not. But create humanoids. Well, I do have humans, right? So if you were to go back and look at the previous pages, there's some humans. in here. So we got some people in here. But it's a whole kind of world building project I've been developing, so. So yeah, we got some humanoids. But I was just thinking about something kind of that would be able to walk in that planet and be able to act, live by itself. Use some flying creatures too. I thought about having some kind of floating creatures. Yeah, do something like this where it kind of floats. Use like some floating critters to live there. Art the Clown, can you do? You want me to draw Art the Clown? I'm not sure who that is. I don't tend to do requests or fan art on here, but because I've got so many things that I want to do for me that I just don't have time for that. I was actually commenting on that because I realized, so I was thinking about it, I don't really ever do fan art. I was mentioning that to my students. And some kind of flying creatures. There's obviously some winged creatures. Do I want 5 gifted subs? I don't know. Do I? I don't know how Kick works. I've just kind of set up an account on there, and then I can live stream from it or with it, in addition to the other ones I'm working with here. I don't even think I'm not sure how you get monetized on those ones. W, huh? So flying critters or floating critters. Good evening, people popping in. I see people coming in over on the Instagram side more easily. My phone's like over there. I have no idea if maybe people are watching from other places, but uh-oh, sneeze. Excuse me. Always twice. Good evening, people popping in. Oof. Good evening. Ah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think I might call it a night there. Get ready for classes in the morning. Hopefully hear back from the other people in my committee by then. And maybe we'll see everybody in the morning. So for morning studies, so I'm gonna put my toys away here. Let's see, where's the lid for this guy? So I'm gonna stab myself. Gotta be down here somewhere. Let's put these other guys away first. Put my markers away. Over there. Pens and marker go up there. There's the lid I was looking for. Right there. All right. Thanks everybody who came in. I appreciate it, and we'll talk at you later.